fund balance for previous year account by $25,000 and increases the human resources other current expenses account by the same amount to create an independent whistleblower program.
I might get a little bit of flack from you because you've been on the council before, and I'm drawing on fund balance. I just noticed that there was an increase over the current fiscal year by about $5 million, and I saw this as an opportunity to fund something really critical that was pointed out in a report by the legislative auditor in November 2017, and that was the implementation of a whistleblower program. And I've made it known, and I'm sure you all have received anonymous letters and calls from the public and even county employees sharing their concerns. And this would create a space for people to be able to report and share these concerns and issues that they may have without fear of retaliation. And so I was able to work with Finance and Director Brillante from Human Resources, who is here, and I'd love to be able to call up and share remarks if he has anything to add. And I know that he and his staff have been working very hard at investigating how we would go about implementing this, and so I'm just going to turn it over to the director.
Thank you. Good morning, William Brillante, Director, Department of Human Resources. Good morning, Chair and Council members. Ms. Kirkwitz is correct in that this matter directly stems from the 2017 HR recruitment audit. It was one of the items specifically identified as recommendations for improvement, one of 7 items. At this point in time, it's the last item that has not been directly addressed or remedied. So it's a passion of former recruitment division manager Gabriela Cabanes, and she initiated the process, and she initiated the investigation and communication with possible service providers. And the information we got back is that which was surprising to me, is that we're one of the few jurisdictions that doesn't have this type of program in place already. City and County of Honolulu, all 8 campuses of the University of Hawaii college system, they all have some type of program like this in place. What this program would do, and through the service provider, is a third-party independent provider who would monitor the established hotline where any of the county employees or members of the public could come in and report an issue or a problem. So it's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and 365 days a year. And in addition to that, when the complaint comes in, there's always the issue as to, is this a real complaint? Is it or is it bogus, or should it be looked into? So part of this, the service that the vendor would provide is that they go and they conduct the initial investigation, and they just do a cursory review of the problem. Because what we hear is, like in Oahu, oftentimes under the city and county, they receive numerous complaints because of potholes on the road. Obviously, that's something that should be addressed from a governmental standpoint, and so those complaints are forwarded to the appropriate departments. But the more substantial issues are, if there's any complaint regarding maybe some type of alleged or potential malfeasance, those are the ones that we want to make sure that, we are able to address. One, timely, as well as affording our employees and as well as the members of the public the safeguards that they know that the fear of retaliation would be much lessened in a situation like this if we were to establish the program.
Thank you, Director, and special shout out to retired Gabriela Cabanes for all of her hard work in putting all the pieces together and figuring out how we can implement this. I'm going to yield for now. The director's here. Deanna Sacco is also here to answer any questions about this. So thank you, and I just ask for your support.
And what happens when they call the hotline and there is an issue? Who then takes care of it?
That's the next step that we're investigating right now. I believe there's a meeting tomorrow with myself, the Mitch Ross, the prosecutor's office, and Bonnie Nims from the Ledge Auditor's office, and we're trying to brainstorm and come up with a reasonable, process or set of procedures where we can have an identified individual who would then be on the receiving end and would facilitate any additional, investigation or anything that needs to take place in order to, properly address the issue that was brought to our attention.
And the costs of that?
You know,
Would be above and beyond 25,000, I'm guessing?
well, the cost, I mean, and that's the discussion we're going to have, is our desire, would be that we could utilize a current employee or somebody currently, within one of those two departments. But if the response we get back, and we'll have a better idea tomorrow, that they just don't have anybody available, then there may be a need to look at maybe an additional funding with a position or something of the like. With the other jurisdictions, they use current employees, to do the follow-up, and they have a procedure in place where they can, get the complaint, forward it to an investigator. The investigator will look into it, independent investigation, and then come back with a conclusion as to whether or not there's sufficient, evidence to move forward on it. And then and a lot of it is going to be determinative on the type of complaint. If it's a complaint regarding criminal, misconduct, then I'm sure that'd go to the prosecutor's office, for their regular evaluation. If it's something that involves maybe a violation of the ethics code, then I'm sure it would move in that direction. So a lot of it is going to be on a case-by-case basis as to what is the specific course of action that, we take.
This is just the beginning. There was a clear need from the Ledge Auditor's report that we needed a program of this manner, and I think it will help to increase the level of transparency and accountability that we have in our county operations. And I've already filed a communication to discuss this program and implementation beyond the hotline at our June meeting, and so I'll be meeting with Director Brillante, Prosecuting Attorney Mitch Roth, Ledge Auditor Bonnie Nims tomorrow to talk about the sustainability and how we would actually implement this program, if it's going to require additional staff or merely the need for investigator-type training of current employees. So a lot of different things that we're going to be considering, and just appreciate all the enthusiasm around this program, and we can talk about it more in June. I yield.
First of all, I think there's no question that this is an important program. Yeah. Probably the first step, as Ms. Kirkowitz said, towards building a more trustworthy system of government. My only concern was the funding source, and that was brought up by Mr. Connie E. Kleinfelder. And, I only caught wind of this when we got these communications, again, hence supporting our contention that there's no violations of sunshine laws going on over here on this body, right? And instead of talking with Ms. Kirkowitz, though, and really, if we had the ability to form that ad hoc committee, we would have been able to hash a lot of these things out. But instead of talking to Ms. Kirkowitz, what I did is I spoke to Ms. Sacco about it, and she told me that Ms. Kirkowitz had a number of discussions with her on this matter. So, Ms. Kirkowitz did her homework before submitting this. I'm going to give a little story, though, regarding the use of fund balance. Many years ago, I think it was in 2004, just as I was ready to leave, this was my last budget that I worked on as finance chair many years ago. I had used fund balance monies. I beefed up the fund balance, millions of dollars actually, for the purpose of providing more funding for police officers in South Kona and Puna. I thought those were the needed areas for more police presence. I was called into the mayor's office. You weren't there, Mayor, at the time. You were the mayor, but it was Dixie Kayetsu who was the managing director, and she gave me an earful. Because that, basically it's irresponsible budgeting. But I had done my homework too, and I think most of you will find out that as you guys go along, you will be able to pretty much predict to a relative degree what the fund balance is going to be for each year. And it worked out. It absolutely worked out. But it all comes down to each person doing their homework. In this case, Ms. Kirkowitz has done her homework, and I applaud her for that. It's really a small amount, $25,000. I think we're going to be able to handle it. I would prefer that we wait until our last reading, though, because, but it's really up to you because we're dealing with risk assessment here. At that time, we're going to have a better picture of what our fund balance might be, because one of the biggest criticisms that I and others have had on this council is that we encourage, our system almost encourages spending at the back end. It doesn't encourage savings. And we don't know what we're dealing with, because I believe we're going to have a flurry of activity and spending over the next few weeks as we head to the end of our fiscal year, unfortunate as it may be. But, that's my only concern. I wanted to state that because we have two other measures that are going to be dealing with the fund balance. And, I just wanted to caution everyone about that. But, it's a calculated risk. And I know Ms. Kirkowitz has really done her homework on this matter. So I'm willing to support it. Okay?